my boss here. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Hilda started off on a fantastic note. You are a man of value. Reading through your profile, in fact, not just your profile, the little I know about you, the value you have created, not just in Nigeria, in West Africa, in Africa as a continent, the value you are creating is huge. And Nigeria is just blessed to have people like you, like Hilda, like Ifuju Ajayi, like all of these people that are within our circle of influence. People are creating value, and I want to thank you for the value you create as well. Thank you for being here. And so, Elvis Boniface is an education evangelist, interesting, an inquirer, a learner, an educator passionate about changing the education narrative in Africa because he believes education is the gold mine that never runs out of gold. Learning is his lifestyle, credo, and religion. He is the CEO of EduGist, a social enterprise that drives reform, technology, and innovation in education in Africa. He works at the intersection of education and technology, using media as overreaching and veritable tool to change the education narrative. So he's here because of his passion for education and technology, education and media. He's just, I don't know how he does all of these things. He has advised, developed, and implemented education-focused corporate social responsibility initiatives and products for many multinationals at all levels of education. He worked with different members of states and National Assembly to channel their constituency projects to education. He has a master's degree in education and certifications in digital strategy, multimedia, broadcast journalism, data management, filmmaking, and ample training locally and abroad. Mr. Elvis, you are just an incredible someone. In 2019, he spoke in Singapore, shared the stage with other global educators at the World Innovation Summit for Education in Qatar, and delivered the keynote on a marketplace education for the Africas. You see, this is something, I don't know if you could also talk about some of these things. So I'd like to welcome you, ladies and gentlemen. Please help me welcome Mr. Elvis Boniface. And this evening, he will be talking about leveraging on technology. You're welcome. You have the floor, Mr. Elvis.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for the incredible work you've done, the 30-day journey. Thank you for giving us the platform to join you. We appreciate it. So, brilliant initiative. I'm happy to be a second speaker when you have an incredible delivery from someone like Ida. What you do usually, you say just like she has said, or like the previous speaker have said. But I think the topics were well tailored. We find ourselves in a very incredible time in the world. So dating back to the 1980s, we've had different revolution. We've had the agricultural innovation revolution, as it were, which of course then it was Stone Age, and from there we have moved to the third industrial revolution, and now we are in the fourth. And the key driver for the fourth industrial revolution is tech. And so tech totally is disrupting the entire ecosystem, from agriculture to transportation to climate change. Everything is being disrupted. So it only becomes truth that education will not be left out. And so, but we must also not forget that education is a late adopter to innovation. Yeah, we are supposed to be the epicenter of learning. We are supposed to be the mother of all profession, looking at education from the prism of what this 30 days conversation is all about. which is teachers and their contribution to national development. So if we bring it down now, how can we leverage that? Now, the first question we want to ask that I like that we talk about this evening is Nigeria, depending on who is giving you the figure, we are told we are more than 200 million people. And the data I have from the National University Commission, NUC, we have 197 universities granted license from federal to state, and then privately owned. And then we have the polytechnics and colleges of education. Now, when you do the head count, so 200 million people. Now you can say, because I am a data guy, so if you put that number to say 43 to 48% are under school age, from primary to pre-primary to uni, and then even adult and community education. Can we answer here on this call and on this conversation that 197 universities can cater to these people? And I know because we all would not want to speak now, but we all know the answer that is not possible. You know, so a case in point, you know, so a clear case in point is we already know the number of out-of-school children. So that is at that level. Now we have not even moved ahead to try to equate and also to know the number of people that make it to Form 9, just 3 as we call it, who are not able to proceed to SS1. That is a gap that nobody is speaking to. And aside that number, aside after the 12 years of education, the SS3 from 12, whatever you want to call, some people still want to speak to pre-President Jonathan, some people want to speak to that. So the question is, how many, what is the number of people that write WAEC every year? And what is the accepting capacity of our universities? We all know, according to them, less than 30% of these people have been accepted into our universities. So usually, you know, Michelle, my work in education, I tell people that we are not here to come and start talking about the problems, as it were. Hilda talked about bringing value. The fundamental thing why I got into education and why I've been doing education with over 100% attention is to see that we all bring solutions to the table, and measurable solution for that matter. So I usually do not like reeling out what the problems are, but what are the solutions. I started off my career the way it was going in education. So from background in early childhood education, but by virtue of where I started working, I'm supposed to be very, very strong in the policy side of things. And I've had a very robust portfolio in policy. I have been privileged to sit on different tables where we are trying to change things, when we are trying to change the narrative, when we are trying to drive those things. But because we are a nation that talks without commensurate action, what I have discovered that helped me to have pivoted my line of work to clearly 100% tech now in education is because I see that is the only thing that can help us out. And so when there was no consultation of bouncing ideas of topics, but you just came out with it, so I would think that is well placed. And so for the few minutes I have left, that is what I'm going to speak to. Because, you know, Hida had talked about value. Every time we talked about education, I believe that education is the last straw that can galvanize and, you know, consolidate the zero hope we have as a nation. And so if we try to begin to fix education, so anytime we want to talk about education, like she spoke earlier on, Some people look at a, a key players in the education ecosystem, which is you guys that works in schools and classrooms. Some of us have never worked. But of course, we have people like you. We have people like I that have spoken. We have people like myself humbly in my own corner. But I always think that if the conversation around education is about you and I, Hida, and a couple of people, then we have, when you look at this, the class cast, we do not have a middle class any longer in the last 5 years. But maybe some of us are able to still eat. And so in an ideal society, we'll say we are happy. But why are we talking about this? My work has helped me to see Nigeria 28 state counting. So I've had footprint in 28 states of the country. And so I know what I have seen. I do not believe, and I say this in very strong platform, that there is any form of legislation, there is any form of policy rollout that is going to fix education outrightly in 5 years period in Nigeria. Because it has taken us 61 years, to fundamentally cultivate and water the rot in the system. And so what is going to help us? The only ray of hope that we have is how we can leverage tech to stay to doing that. Number one, we cannot talk about education. Education is a social cause, yes, and we always preach the social component of education when we are talking to teachers. We don't want to ask for so much salary. But when we discuss at the other side of policy making, we do not talk about finance. Here, from education, from what do you call them now, activists in the education ecosystem. Everybody complain about the very major sum that is being allotted to education. We have revolves between 4% to 6% in the last 21 to 22 years of this present republic. So we've not done past that. Now, FILA tells us that in 2006, that is when we went the highest. And the only reason we did that was because a certain president was nursing a third-term agenda. I digress to politics, but let's come back. One of the first things I think that we can leverage on tech, can we roll out technology to begin to police and check the amount of money that is being released from the national treasury as a budgetary allocation to the Ministry of Education. It's something that is being done in Rwanda. It's something that is being done in smaller countries like Botswana. And I am deliberate by giving examples of fellow African countries. And these are African younger brothers that look at Nigeria as the big elephant in the room. Because one of the things that we are not getting right is the very little amount that is being given to the Ministry of Education as the allocation. This money is being split to over 20 parastatals, and you are aware. So that is the first thing I think that if we roll out tech at that level, but I like to stay within the confines of this conversation, which is for teachers. How can you leverage tech for your personal career, for the school you work for the school you own, and of course for how you want to go to? I had said at the beginning that with a brilliant presentation from Gida, we can actually call it up and go. One of the things, as you begin to take your career serious, like she mentioned, a lot of people are going to laugh at you. By the time you write and do a lot of things on social media, IG, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you have power, a lot of people are going to call you noisemaker initially. But like motivational speakers will say, they laugh at us. Later, they ask us to show them the way. But by the time you have value, you have missing link. We have got so many people. In my work of covering education for our organization, EduGist, we are first a media organization. I have seen brilliant talent in Imo State. I've seen brilliant classroom teachers in Ekiti. Recently, I was in the north. I have met very creative students in Jigawa, in Dutse, and all that. But how do you leverage that to begin to tell your story, to begin to find yourself outside there? Because we have someone that works in the school system. Of course, we want to look at how you can perform academically. We want to look at your CGP over the years. But at some level in your career, nobody wants to know what you even graduated with. Nobody even want to ask you for your certificate. A lot of people want to say, what can you do? What experience have you had over the years? And so the only thing, especially for us that are from Nigeria, sometimes I meet, I will take my deliverables, KPI.
Not exactly.
We now start thinking about booking flights. We start want to think about availability. If this session is being held in Lagos, we want to start complaining about traffic and all sorts, which is the reality. But here we are doing it from the comfort of our houses. And so you have got a very, very strong message. Her soul rest in peace. I mean, Temi Tokpe, the only thing we just, all of us in the ecosystem, the only thing we remember when we mention her name is that she exuded happiness. She was a carrier of happiness. So there's something you must give out. Just a few years after leaving the university studying education, I've not even gone for masters. So this British school has invited me to come work for them, and I told them I want to collect 3.2 million naira per month. And so the initial Nigerian guys that interviewed me said, they were looking at me and like, one of them could not hold it. She asked me, Oga, how much is my annual salary? But you know what? You know what? Later, the British owner called me and said, Elvis, when are you going to resume? Initially, I didn't. Yes. Yeah. But what did I do? Now there's even payment attached to Coursera. There is a I have done masters in education. I'm currently doing another one in one of a top 10 global university. But there is a course on Coursera called Foundation to Teaching. At the early stage of Coursera, all those courses were free. So you know what I would do? All through the night, I'll buy internet. They'll tell you all night is free. So all through the night, and then year 1, year 2, year 3 into your profession, all you are doing is taking and absorbing. I am speaking to you now that it is time for you to take a back seat, do self-audit and reflection, and ask yourself, what have you cooked? What are you giving to the world? And it is very easy for you to give out something. With tech, she literally finished everything and delved into this topic. Today we run a top consultancy firm, EduGist Partners, which is a developmental partner to plenty of multinational organizations. The only thing I started out to do with EduGist, and that's how it is called, EduGist, gist around education.
And gist education.
People that are hitting the benchmark and have moved into trillions of dollars, all of them are going into education full time. Google has been there. We've had Google for Education over the years. We have Microsoft. I was very privileged to sit in New York with the head of education for Microsoft. So what does that speak to us, to African educators? It is for you to position yourself that 30 years is, I mean, not literally, but in the next 5, 10 years, ask yourself, in my eyes, I mean, it has not seen sleep, because the development, what Mark took, next thing that we are going into is ARO and VRO, you know, augmented reality and virtual reality. That is where learning is going. And so if I were you listening to this conversation today, go back and tell yourself, where exactly what space do I want to take? And so a lot of people tells me, Elvis, this thing is jargon, this thing is too complex and abstract when we talk. No, technology in education does not, and it's not about coding, it's not about programming. And I'm sure that a lot of us listening now, we know a guy called Bola Lawal, Scholar X. We know they have a decent product, and that product is called Learner. Like you heard it, that is the street speak for learning, but it's Learner. So they have every content being taught to people in pidgin English. To be identified with your local language. Yesterday, I have a talk at Lagos at Pan-African Pan-Atlantic University, formerly Lagos Business School. There was a commissioning of a building there, which was gifted to them by Nigerian breweries. Named after the first and the only CEO from Nigeria to have been the CEO MD of Nigerian breweries, Mr. Felix. Everybody call him Elder now. And I sat behind. They wanted me to talk about something very important. And then the vice chancellor of Pan Atlantic University, that is one of the best universities in the continent, and one of the most expensive. And then the white guy that is the vice chancellor was struggling to talk. And so a lot of the Nigerians in front of me were saying, so how come is the VC? So we talked about, we are very strong on packaging in Nigeria. As educators, we advocate soft skills and all that. But there must be something you are giving to the world. We know a Senegalese guy on IG here that is now an internet sensation. You know, he's made so much money. He was working in the factory. And during the pandemic, at the very heart of COVID, you know, in Italy, they asked him to leave his job because they were not working, and he took to Instagram. Today, he's almost hitting 20 million followers. Possibility of tech is important. We all engage on Facebook. We all engaged on, free information. Before now, they used to say that because Google does not charge you anything, you are the product. No, that context has changed. The consumer has got the power because these people are looking. May I tell you, brothers and sisters, listening to this, and I might listen to it later on, different organizations, Coursera, for instance, is looking for people that can translate their artificial intelligence modules in Yoruba language.
Interesting.
And what they are paying is $2,800 for 1 hour engagement. If you can do that and you have your CV, you can just shoot me that and we'll make it happen on Wednesday. But you know why you can, or most people cannot do this? It's because we have not left traditional education. I do not know how it still applies, but the times I know before, I know that a period in a conventional school used to be 40 minutes. Mr. Shea, is that right? What is the typical period?
Yeah.
Yes. So you say
40 minutes. 40.
Great. Yes. Then in uni we have 2 hours. But now that times have changed. Now the average retention time for these current guys, these current young folks we have today, they say brain scientists say these guys have very, very short attention span that is shorter than the jellyfish. That if you don't catch them in the first 18 seconds, you have lost them. And so for me that works in the media, before now you can give me very good script and say, Elvis, translate this into a jingle and all that. But now you can give me a script and it will take me sometime 1 week to see how in the first 4 seconds we can catch our audience. Because if we lost them at that level, the millions of naira you have paid in art, in the leading TV channel, it's gone. So what does that translate into? How can you take your 40-minute session before now, let's say you teach integrated science or civic education, and you say Nigeria gained independence in 1960, we became a republic in 1963, and then we moved into the Civil War in 1966. Before now, you just come to the classroom and start talking, and they will just be there. But how do you make this thing to be fun in the shortest of time? How do you master relevant skills? I mean, like Microsoft PowerPoint. We have organizations in Nigeria whose salary, I mean, the previous speaker left bank. I mean, she's coming from the finance ecosystem. We have people that have not touched the 4 walls of the university, but they are very good on Excel, and they are paid heavily to do numbers, to do data in multinationals, in the energy sector, in actuarial science department of multinational organizations. So there is something you must give by the time you leverage on tech. So that will be on learning. The other part is, because education, I always see education to be more of a spiritual thing. If you look at education across board, especially the movement of education into a pre-colonial Africa, it was brought in here by the missionary, and Islam also played a key role in the establishment of education in Africa. And so what that tells you, the Bible, I have also read the Quran very well, talks about going out and multiply. And so this is not just biology, this is just about you giving out, which is one of the things I noted from the previous presentation. You must learn to give out using tech. Today, you do not need to go and start saying, let me clear my throat, let me start. No, say it out. Podcast, is it audio you want to give out? Talks, I mean, speak into your Android phone today. There is a filter there, speak there, go to we have looked at how we can leverage tech to improve education from the national school, and how you can learn, and then how you can give back. But now, what is the continuity? How are you going to measure their impact? Story.
Mm.
Always ask for recommendation. Have you ever asked yourself? And I mean, some of us left uni not too long. I mean, and then we are doing. Sometimes I walk into a good school and they say, "Okay, Elvis, we want you to be coming here 2 times a week. This is what we'll be paying you." And I tell them, "No, that is too small. I'm going to send you invoice." Value in the power of storytelling. You must also be aware of exaggeration and telling lies, because in the social space you see that a lot. And then, as you carry this value, you must also know when you want to open up, when you are ready, because there is nothing that is as bad as you being announced when you have not been prepared.
Mm.
You cannot, I mean,
Wow.
you cannot stand on vainglory. And the internet does not forget. And people will listen to you. People will look at you and say, okay, and then they say they are teachers. Look at the way they are looking and look at the way they are acting. So these are the ways I think, or from personal
Mm.
example, I have been. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not privileged to work in the classroom like I would wish to. I am a full-time teacher. That is the only value I have. I left economics during undergrad to go and study education. So I'm no one person that have left from somewhere to. I have worked in education all my professional life, and like he does say, because a lot of my work is in the corporate room. Sometimes when I get there and they say, "Mr. Boniface, introduce yourself," and I say I'm a teacher, a lot of them are already expecting that when it comes to payment, they will pay me peanuts. But I don't do that. Some of them will not ask you, but of
Okay.
course, because I go there. So these are the areas. I mean, so in summary, if we leverage tech as teachers, we have a point to play beyond just complaining like ASU strike. If we come back to primary, we can also ask ourselves, are we meeting the recommendations of the Basic Education Act? You can measure that. You can measure the finance. And then most importantly, the only way you can say you are doing stuff today is by the success of your students and pupils. Tech has helped us to make measurement and evaluation very easy. We have put this to some schools because this is an ecosystem of we talking traffic. So I've just done 41 minutes, so I will call it a go here. If there are any question, I'm ready to answer. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Mr. Elvis, you are incredible. You're a genius. I know you can go on and on and on and on like that, but I mean, you have hit it. You know, you've said some quite an you said some things that I just hope that teachers can, go home and think about some of these things. At this age and time, if you cannot leverage on the availability of technology, I mean, what else can we, it is not even it isn't an option. Interestingly, you can't say, okay, I can choose to not use it. At this time, you don't have an option other than to leverage on the availability of technology, because our world is changing. And you see, when we say education has to change, this ambiguity that I try to remove from the definition of technology. So when we say that technology has to change, we're actually saying that teachers have to change, because teachers have the capacity to change education. When we say when we talk quality education, we're talking quality teachers. So when we're talking of educational technology or technology in education, we're talking about teachers' proficiency in the use of technology. So as teachers of the 21st century, you don't have a choice than to change your practices. Please, if you need to reach out to Mr. Elvis after now, please reach out to him. If you want to be a tutor or a mentor or a facilitator, a Coursera, please reach out to him. There are other, if not for time, okay, so just one question. One. What are those areas that teachers can begin to look at? What are those areas that teachers can begin to explore when it comes to technology? And then we'll round off on that note.
Okay, thank you very much.
2 areas. All right.
So one area is in every discipline. Now we talk about passive income. That is what every discipline. So every teacher must have that skill of being able to pass out knowledge beyond what you will do in your classroom. So in Nigeria, we have different platforms like that. We have a lot of people doing stuff on Tutoria. We have a lot of people on pass.ng. But so the critical skill you now need is in course content creation. Can you make your video? Can you do short video edits? These are things you can learn on YouTube. Can you put up a very, very solid PowerPoint? And the attention span is not just an education thing. For those of us that work in the corporate sector, I know CEOs that if you write them anything beyond 3 lines, they are not going to reply.
Interesting.
That is one skill that you must know. Secondly, you must be able to function beyond the classroom. I did a project in Norway, and one of the things that just happened there now is that every EdTech organization, in their content creation, the head of content creation and a high number of people in that space must be first teachers that have worked in the classroom. It has entered their constitution. But if we do it in Nigeria, if we are lucky and we have an educator that becomes a president or even a relevant person becomes the Minister of Education and then put this into law. It's one thing for you to put this in law, but do we have people with the requisite technical skill to function outside of the classroom? So go get this relevant.
I mean, okay. Mm, it is. Okay. Mr. Hold on. I think some of the listeners are saying, some of the listeners are saying they cannot hear you. Can you
Do I go
can you
ahead?
hold on, Mr. Elvis?
Okay.
Please. I think I got some of the list. I saw one or two messages now that they couldn't hear you properly.
Okay. Is it better now?
Please
That's
go
what
on.
I'm...
You were
Okay,
Yes,
is it
you
better?
were talking about five. Yes.
Yes. So I am saying the internet is a gold mine. The major billionaires,
Yeah.
in the last 10 years, all have come from the tech ecosystem. But now the noise
Yeah.
about the internet revolves around five organizations. And of course, we know that the mother of them that have a very big gold mine is Google, that has just become $1 trillion company. We have Apple, we have Facebook, we have Amazon, and then we have Discovery Education. Now, if we go back now, Google has the Google for Education. That is a big market in Europe and the US. And so the certification, after now, you can just do a Google search, Google for Education. When I did my first certification there, it took me 10 hours reading time. I read, I watched videos, and I wrote the exam, all totally free. We are looking for people because I tell people that why we complain about education or why some people cannot understand the impact of our cry to reform education in Nigeria is that Nigeria is not Lagos. By the time you leave Lagos, by the time you leave Abuja and you go to the remaining 33 states, the state of education is appalling and an eyesore. And I speak from an authority of having gone to 28 states, from Ebonyi, to Enugu. I was in the north in October, between 25th to 31st. I went from one state to the other. You do not want to know what I saw. Students in final year that cannot read or write. So how did you get into uni and go to final year? And I'm telling you what I have seen. So why we might think we have been liberated in Lagos, in Abuja, for some of us that works there is a lot of work to be done. I mean,
Sure.
all through my secondary school, I never saw a teacher, like the previous speaker, because I went to a community secondary school. So one of the things we were told and we knew was that teachers do not put on trousers. They don't do makeup. They don't clean their face. And so one of the training my organization did in Nasarawa, they paid us serious money. But when we did what we call need assessment in education, and we spoke to the students all across the different local government, the only thing why the students were not concentrating, it was because their teachers don't laugh back to them, they don't smile. And so from World Bank funding, we did a full training basically teaching people how to laugh, how to smile back to their students. So Google is looking at how they can make this thing commonplace with their certification. What do you know there? And then we have Microsoft. All of us know Microsoft. We know Microsoft Innovation. And the good thing is that for Africa, these things are still free. In other climes, you pay heavily for their certification. All of us know that courses on Allison, for instance, are very expensive abroad. But Allison here is less than $29. But it's not, I mean, I know you are thinking that is good, that is plenty of money. But it's nobody's fault that your Naira is suffering. But it's a risk you have to take. So how does Amazing come on board? Amazing is taking over everything. Education has moved beyond that 40 minutes period. We have people who now have investment in transportation. Now with the state of Nigeria, we have full organizations in Nigeria that do 2 billion turnover. And the only thing they do is security for the children of the rich. In the schools you have in Ijebu, I don't want to mention it. In the school you have in Agbo, in the school you have in Osun State, those very expensive schools. So security is an industry in education. So go back and look at certification in Cisco. There's a certification called CSSCS. If they are not paying you to teach, go back and get something that will make you to be useful. So this is where the internet revolves around these five organizations. Go back and look at critical skills that you can master. Master it one thing. What these organizations are looking at today now is how to scale up these skills. And the only way to scale it is when they have one or two experts. This is time for you to jump at them, because this is the gold mine of the information age, revolving around that. Then, brothers and sisters, Facebook is a time killer. You know, by the time you start scrolling on that feed, you want to do 2 minutes. Before you know, you have stayed there for 2 hours. But inside there, there is a Facebook for education. But Metaverse is a multi-trillion industry that is emerging. You know, if we can keep intact, I want to have some people join the bird show in London between 21 and 22nd of January. It is something you are predisposed on. Let's talk so that you can see. The bird show is the biggest educational technology event in the world every year that takes place in London. I want to be able to show you where the world is going. And so you might not forgive yourself if you are left behind. The only thing why you are angry that school owners are not treating you like the jewel you are is because you have not harnessed and honed yourself with relevant skill, that when you shut the door, the room becomes dark. You must get a skill that when you check out of the room, they know that something is amiss. And the internet will help you to do that without, I mean, at zero budget. Just the data that you would have used on Linda EKG. Just the data that you would have used to scroll Facebook or do Naira Land. Channel it at the relevant thing. I'm talking to you on my phone here. And for people that are joining this session and that will listen, it tells me that you've got an Android phone. It tells me that you have access to the internet. So you do not have an excuse to be an Ajebo and Paco the way we said it in street speak. You have the same free time, free liberty to hustle for your salvation. Because one thing, while we talk about impact, the only time you can begin to extend a hand of help to anybody is when you have personally been liberated. So please get yourself liberated. And by the time you enter the room with power, the power of knowledge, I'm not talking about arrogance, education with our exposure. When you look at the Aristotle principle, with all that you have known, with all your exposure, with whatever you have in your account, if you enter the room, you are supposed to be the most submissive person in that room. That is the hallmark of education. But that does not translate that anybody wants to step on your head. You know when to say no.
I mean, Mr. Elvis, this is too much for someone to consume at a time. I mean, oh, there is so much. There is so much out there that we are not harnessing. There is so much that we can do as teachers. You mentioned something profound. You said teachers should not limit themselves to the classroom. In other words, you have the capacity to function beyond the classroom. You have all it takes to function beyond the four walls of the classroom. And technology has given you a platform to do that. We're having this conversation because we have a platform. Years ago, we couldn't do that. And so there is so much out there. I wanted to say something, but let me just leave that. But there's so much that teachers can harness. There is so much that you can do. Last week, we talked about communicating value. Okay? Value that is not communicated is as if it's almost the same thing that there's no value. Do you understand? And so it is not enough for you to have value. First, of course, you have to understand that you need to give value. But it is not enough for you to just give value and nobody knows. Communicate your value. That yes, thank you, madam. There is access to so much information. And you talked about lighting, when the moment somebody gave a fantastic scenario that when you enter a room and the room is dark, it doesn't matter how long the room has been dark. Once you press the button, light comes in immediately. Do you understand? And so it doesn't matter how long there is darkness. Once you switch on the light comes up. The idea of my book, Let There Be Teachers, came from the idea of let there be light. As a matter of fact, I used teachers in my opinion, teachers are the light of the world. Do you understand? So as a teacher, when you enter a room, you should lighten up that place. When you enter a place, you should be the light. When you are in a school, you should be the light. And one of the things that will help you is technology. Thank you so much, Mr. Elvis Boniface. You have been a light to many this evening, today. And of course, thank God, they say the internet never forgets. So we will never forget all of the things that you have shared this evening. Thank you so much for being a light to Nigeria, to Africa, and to the world at large. Well, I'm personally so grateful, and I'm blessed to have people like you. Thank you so much. At this point, we'll have to this meeting. I mean, I wish we can continue this conversation, and that's one of the things I get when I have conversations with you. So thank you so much, Rizka. We're going to see when we'll talk tomorrow. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Elvis. I'd like to let you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
God bless you.
Joining us. Thank you.
All right. So you've heard it. You've heard it from him and from them. Communicate value. Look for what is unique about you, and begin to communicate that. Leverage on technology. There are courses online that you can sign up for. Don't be a teacher of the 16th century. This is 21st century. Don't be a teacher that will give laptop and does not know how to use a laptop. All right, so please upskill, upgrade, update yourself. And as you do that, you will discover that your value rises. Invariably, it's a natural thing. So please do that. And next week Friday, I will have the CEO of 1 Million Teachers, Mr. Akim Sibel. He's going to be here on Friday, And today we're supposed to have Kemi Ogusanya, but she has an event today, so she's not going to make it. So next week Saturday she'll be here, and I'll be bringing up my friend Olarewaju. You know, you talked about you have the capacity to function beyond the classroom. So this is a teacher that is functioning beyond the classroom. Do you understand? It's a teacher that is doing something outside, that is giving value outside of the classroom. So Olarewaju will be here next week Saturday with a friend in Ghana. He's the guy that if you watch his Instagram, you look at the way he communicates, the way he teaches with dance. And so we'll have him next week. We also have Mr. Emmanuel, who we're talking about. So this is one thing that we've seen, that the way teachers are being treated in schools, who fights for them, who speaks for them. So Mr. Emmanuel, we're talking about how we can have a defense mechanism for teachers. All right, so this month has been pretty amazing. Today has been awesome. Mr. Elvis, thank you so much. And then I also realized that since this series started, I have not actually talked about my book. Okay, so this is my book that I've titled "Let There Be Teachers." And so I'll be in Lagos. I'll be in Lagos next week. And then on the 4th of December, I'll be doing an official launch in Lekki. So I'll send invitation on my Instagram page. So this is my book. Initially, I was going to sell it for $3.5, but you know, I've reduced it to $2.5, but you know, for the sake of, so that more people can get it. So this is my book, Let There Be Teachers. If you need if you need a copy, I've sold well over 200 copies since Miss Carol, thank you. You know, so I've sold well over 200 copies, and you know, people are still ordering. So if you need a copy of the book, some of the things, you know, it's just I just put together my educational ideologies, philosophies, experience, and personal reflections. I put them all together, and trust me, it is worth the money. All right, thank you so much, and thank you for joining. So I look forward to seeing you next week, Friday. Next week we'll have Friday and Saturday, and then we will round off this Let There Be Teachers series. Mr. Elvis, thank you, and God bless you. Hilda, thank you so much, and our previous speakers. I am greatly honored to have you, and God bless you. Enjoy your weekend, and do have a fruitful week ahead. Thank you, Mr. Elvis. I'll reach out. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.